As you can see from the abundance of dishes here, today was supposed to be project day. And in fact, we were going to be making tidbit trays. However, I realized at the last minute the drill bits I need are buried in rubble under the schoolhouse. So I'm going to go out later today, get those drill bits, and we're going to see about just rescheduling the project for tomorrow. Meantime, there is something that I wanted to get into today because this is a recurring issue that's cropped up in the comments on my videos and over on the Crazy Lamp Lady side. And I just don't know how to put this one permanently to bed in one or two lines of a comment response. So we are going to devote a video to it. And that is this persistent rumor that Art Nouveau and Art Deco are suddenly going to increase in value over the next, 18 months? Oh dear, we do need to deal with this. So, see you in a minute. All right, let's start with what are Art Nouveau and Art Deco. It's just real basic. And they are styles of not just furniture, but decorative arts in general that are associated with the 20th century. Now, Art Deco may be something of the 20th century, but Art Nouveau is not. So we're going to start with that. And in order to start with Art Nouveau, we really have to just go back in time a little bit farther, because Art Nouveau, as many artistic schools, was born out of a rejection of what had existed previously. And what had existed previously in the middle of the 19th century was Victorian. And a lot of us have a soft spot for Victorian, but believe me, Victorian has been held in very, very low regard for many years by serious collectors. And in particular, the kind of Victorian furniture that was out around, say, 1840 to 1860. This was the early days of the Industrial Revolution, so for the first time, average people, folks like you and I, could just walk into a store or, basically a store or a furniture crafter's shop and get reasonably inexpensive mass-produced furniture. Great boon to the lower and middle classes, but in terms of the impact on furniture design, ouch. Because in order to provide this plentiful, cheap, mass-produced furniture, a lot of things had to be sacrificed. Style, quality. Victorian furniture is uncomfortable, hard to use. It's hard to sit in, and it's over fussy, over frilly. The veneers peel off over time. Some of that stuff is a real mess. Even the really fine Victorian furniture, John Henry Belter, for example. Now, Belter was German, he was a German who emigrated to the U.S. in the 1800s, opened a furniture shop. In fact, I think his shop was in New York. It was 1858, I know that. I think it was in New York. And his stuff is fabulous. His pieces are in museums. It's the very, very high end of Victoriana. But even that stuff was held in low regard for a very long period of time. And what came out of this is the group of people that I am going to call tastemakers so that we can sort of agree on the function of these people. These were designers, they were writers of newspaper and magazine articles, the people who we would probably call them trend spotters today. But they didn't really spot. They created, and they were in a whole variety of fields. Uh, Charles Downing in landscape architecture, um, William Morris, fabric and textiles, the entire arts and crafts movement, um, even the pre-Raphaelite school of painting rejected Victorian, and many, many brilliant schools of decorative arts have come out of a rejection process like that. They were developed because the people involved said, I hate what is before me. I want something different. So it's not as if they were moving towards something as much as they were moving away from something. It was sort of anything but Victorian, thank you so much. And these threads of the pre-Raphaelites, the arts and crafts, William Morrison fabrics, all eventually led to a very soft and fluid style that we call Art Nouveau. And Art Nouveau is just French for new art. That's just what it means. And it was very sympathetic with the impetus of something like the arts and crafts movement that sought a greater creativity, more artisan work, less manufactured work, or William Morris, who strove to bring vines and birds and all kinds of flora and fauna into his designs, and Downing, the landscape architect, who wanted landscaping architecture to move away from the highly sculpted, just think Versailles kind of 18th century gardens, and create something much more naturalistic. And so naturalistic and fluid are our keywords for Art Nouveau. This style came out, it was um, pretty definitive by about 1880, and from around 1890 to about 1910, it was the peak of its popularity. It is a turn of the century aesthetic movement. Very beautiful, very flowing. Um, Art Deco, however, has a very different origin. Art Deco, it has specific date of birth. And the specific date of birth for Art Deco was the summer of 1925. And it came out of the Paris exhibition. And the Paris exhibition is was the exhibition of decorative and industrial arts. And in French, of course, you get your noun and your adjective follows, whereas in English we have the adjective first. Decorative arts, French, arts décoratif, shortened to Art Deco. That is where it came from. Summer 1925, Paris. That is the birth of Art Deco. Um, and it's quite likely that Art Deco, with its strong geometrics, was rejecting Art Nouveau the way Art Nouveau had rejected mass-produced Victoriana in its day. Art Deco and Art Nouveau are very hard to confuse once you've seen them. And this Art Deco, this stove, one of the things I love about it is the beautiful Art Deco designs. Very geometric, very bold. Nouveau, on the other hand, is sinuous and flowing, very, very different. And I do have, interestingly enough, a piece that incorporates both. And let's take a look at that piece right now, and I bet you're going to be able to tell me why it incorporates both once you see it. Okay, so there's my fishbowl. The base is Art Deco. The portion that holds the bowl is Art Nouveau. Um, Very sympathetic with arts and crafts and the flowers and the ribbons and the flowing. So why did this happen? Well, I'm sure you can tell, because that top piece and that bottom piece were screwed together on a pole. So they were made separately. It was not one cohesive design. It was put together like Tinker Toys. And you will often see things like this. That particular piece, I love it, not just because it's just such a weird combination, just such strong deco lines on the base and such strong Nouveau lines on the little fishbowl holder, but because it's got some nice lines of its own. And there are a couple of other pieces I want to show you just so you're very clear. And these are mine. And I don't have a lot. I'm more um, I'm more Eastlake steampunk. Thank you very much. But you know I love Art Deco. So let's take a look again at my Art Deco lamp. It's over in my little plant corner. And now let's take a look at my desk, because my desk is arts and crafts with the Art Nouveau style. And that's, by the way, the carving on that desk is very Art Nouveau. You look at that, you know what Art Nouveau is. These are pieces that are very nice in their own right. And because I love Art Deco and I love Art Nouveau, I am going to be the last person in the world to tell you not to buy them. But if you are buying them with some strange notion that in the next year or two they're going to suddenly become more valuable, then we really need to dispel this right now. I'm pretty sure I know where this comes from. Um, Clearly, one thing, it comes from a person with severe math insufficiency, because the theory behind it would seem to be that these pieces are going to become antique in the next 18 months to 2 years and therefore more valuable. So let's talk about that. I already told you that Art Nouveau's heyday was between 1890 and 1910. Hey, it's 2019. It is not 100 years. Um, Sorry, that's been and gone. Art Deco, remember the Paris exhibition 2025, not 2020, not 2021. The earliest Art Deco pieces will not be 100 years old for another 6 years. That's just, you could give a kid a purple crayon and they can sort that out for themselves with some simple math. And even if they were about to become 100 years old, does that actually mean anything? Well, no, not necessarily. The sort of rule of thumb definition for an antique is something that is at least 100 years old. Um, Customs law, however, and I don't know if it's changed. I know the last time I checked, customs law did not even consider Victorian furniture to be antiques, because the way the law was written, and I believe it was written in the 1930s, it didn't say anything 100 years from whenever we are examining it. It said anything 100 years before now, meaning the 1930s. So earlier pieces, Empire pieces, Duncan Fife, Chippendale, they were all antiques. The Victoriana was not. And I do have to check and see if Customs has in fact changed that, because it was clearly an error and defeated the understanding of the promulgators of this law. They just wanted everything over 100 years old to be declared an antique. But that's what the law said. But again, even if it does, let's take a look at this. Victorian furniture would have been 100 years old in the 1950s. Does anybody remember a great Victorian revival period in the 1950s, in the 1960s, in the 1980s, even when Victorian was phasing out? No, it didn't happen. It came and went. It became 100 years old. Nobody cared. Art Nouveau has already become 100 years old. Date came and went. Nobody cared. It didn't suddenly become wildly collectible. So the idea that somehow Art Deco is going to hit its 25th birthday, or I'm sorry, 100th birthday in 2025 and suddenly become wildly collectible. On what does anyone base this? Did anything else ever become wildly collectible simply because it got to be 100 years old? Now, when I say this, I'm not talking about anniversary items, like, for example, bicentennial stuff, which in fact might become very collectible in 2076 when the 1976 bicentennial commemorative stuff is 100 years old. I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot tell you. Occasionally, 100 years marking a specific event might make something more collectible, but it's never worked for furniture in the past, and I see no reason why it's going to now. If you like the stuff, buy it. By all means, I do. You've seen, these are my personal pieces. These are not pieces I got for resale. These are pieces that belong to me. And you know you're going to have to pull that stove out of my cold, dead hands. My stuff. Love it. Would I suggest you buy it now with the idea of reselling at a profit in 18 months to 2 years? No. No, I would not. Any good quality item that you can get now, you are probably going to get a better price for down the road. But keep in mind that inflation is going to cut into that. So what has to happen for something to be a good investment over, let's say, a period of 5 to 10 years? What needs to happen is the market for that item, for that style of furniture, for anything, copper pots, has to be depressed right now. You have to be able to get a better deal right now than you really ought to get. Then you grab it, you hold it, the market picks up, you make a profit. That profit should be a little higher than inflation. When you buy something with the expectation that it's going to be an investment piece, and this is anything, you have got to know that market. You have to. If you don't know the market, you're not clear about which pieces will likely appreciate most over time, and you could make a tragic mistake. So, Art Nouveau, Art Deco, I love them. If you love them, you buy them. Don't look at some sort of pie-in-the-sky notion that in 2021 something magical is going to happen that will make these pieces more valuable. It's not the 100th anniversary of either Nouveau or Deco. Nothing special is going to happen. The market right now for good Art Nouveau pieces is not depressed. It's not. This is a high market now. Oh, with reason. These are gorgeous pieces. They're beautiful. And they're already over 100 years old. you're not going to find very many bargains in Art Nouveau. Art Deco, probably. But then you're looking at, do you know that market well enough? Do you know those pieces well enough? Can you tell the difference between Art Deco and mid-century modern? Believe me, I have seen pieces. I've looked at them. I've grabbed and said, oh, Art Deco. And then, no, wait, this is like 30 years later. Because Art Deco preceded mid-century modern and lent a lot of the influence to it. You will see this. So please, buy what you like. If you want to buy for investment, give the matter a lot of thought. Do your research. Find an area that is depressed now, but has traditionally held strong values. So you want a market that has pretty much been like this, not up and down and up and down, pretty much like this, but for some reason it's dropped. This is where you want to buy, and it'll go back up to its normal level, and then you will make money. Those roller coasters, oh, this is up, this is down. It's very, very tempting. And if you do it just right and get very lucky, there's a lot of money to be made. But you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be very lucky. And if there's one thing I would say to anyone, it's please don't ever bank on luck. My goodness. So that is Art Nouveau, Art Deco. What is going to happen with them over the next 2 years? Nothing. Nothing. No. Nothing. No. Mm-mm. Nothing. Because we've already cut apart the underlying theory behind it, that somehow they're going to have their 100th birthday, and that's going to make them special. Art Nouveau already had its 100th birthday. Art Deco doesn't have its 100th birthday for another 6 years. Look it up. Paris Expo. This isn't opinion. These are documented historical facts. Okay, I have a few more pictures from pen giveaways, and I would like you to see some of these because these are folks who have gotten the pens. They're using them. They're getting benefit out of it. And of course, I want you to see what we're doing, what we're accomplishing. We're making improvements in people's lives. And that just gives me so much joy. So, pictures of pen winners. Okay, new giveaway just for today. This is one of Lisa from Desert Dragonworks creations. It's a beautiful little stone steampunk heart. I'm going to show you a close-up picture of it. All right, right into this video and this video only. Give me that heart, and I'll pick a winner at random, and you will get this beautiful piece. All right, have a terrific time. Hopefully we will get our project video done tomorrow. I've got my plates. I've got a few other things that I'm going to turn into tidbit trays that might surprise you. So we'll see you later.